Welcome to Annotating a Source, Reading and Making Meaning with Research. This video will help you explain the value of annotating sources for a research paper and apply annotation strategies to mark up and synthesize your researched sources. Let's begin by establishing the value of annotation. First, it can help you summarize complicated information presented within your scholarly sources. As you process the material, try to make connections with your prior knowledge and experiences. How does the content fit in with your existing understanding of the world? By forcing yourself to annotate, you can also learn to better evaluate the arguments presented in your sources. Look for strong support or faulty reasoning. Your own audience will be doing the same when they approach the evidence you provide. So it's important to critically evaluate your own sources to defend your ethos or credibility. Next, applying a highlighting strategy, for example, can help you synthesize or blend the ideas within each source by requiring you to connect the information with your existing reasons that you may have generated while brainstorming, or giving you new content through which you can build even stronger claims and reasons. Finally, a close reading with annotating can give you fodder or ideas for additional research or refinement of your writing. Let's take a look at how this might look in a practical example. Tyrell has recently been assigned a very open-ended informative paper requiring him to detail a topic of his choice. Because he's an education major, he decides he wants to investigate the current grading system to determine its existing trends and potential alternatives. After a careful search through multiple databases, Tyrell finds 3 scholarly sources that he feels are reliable and valid and might help him prove his thesis, which claims that the currently acceptable grading system is inadequate. Before he sits down to write his paper, though, he wants to carefully read each article to get a better understanding of existing dialogue surrounding grading. As he is grappling with the content, he chooses to annotate to help him better digest the complex ideas. As mentioned, annotating can help you better summarize the arguments and reasons presented in your research sources. While there is not just one right way to annotate sources, you can see here that Tyrell chose to use just keywords to help him identify and summarize the main ideas of especially complex paragraphs. He chose to mark up his text with summary if he had to read the paragraph or sentence more than twice before he understood the content, or if he felt the idea was especially emphasized or critical to his own argument. To connect the reading to his prior knowledge and experiences, Tyrell commented on sections that made him think about what he had already imagined to be true or a relatable situation. You can see in the example from Gusky that Tyrell found it difficult to accept the author's claims because it countered his own understanding of how teachers perceive grades. In the Marzano and Heffelbauer text, Tyrell was reminded that his own daughter's school used a modified version of the grading system being discussed in the text. This helped him better visualize the author's claims and connect them with his current mental models of report cards. One of the most critical steps in your reading is evaluation. If you are unable to sift through the claims, reasons, and evidence presented in your research sources, you may find it difficult to write intelligibly about your topic. Tyrell was frequently engaged with the text he had selected, noting good examples or evidence, questioning confusing or erroneous content, and identifying potential logical fallacies. Notice that some of his annotations are just a word or two, while others are entire sentences. He also used his own shorthand to speed up the process. The top example, from Scherer, for example, has the notation GP, which stands for good point. When you annotate, feel free to use any style of annotation that works for you, even including emoticons, symbols, and pictures. After reading through and marking up the articles once, Tyrell decided that he needed to read them again, this time with his revised main reasons in mind. Since he was writing about current grading practices, he chose to focus on differentiating or categorizing students, motivation, product-driven grades, process-driven grades, progress-driven grades, and standards-based grades. Some of these reasons he had already noted in his brainstorm, but he also added a few based on the initial read of his current sources. Notice Tyrell chose to create his own key to help him better mark up his sources to make organization and synthesis easier when he was finally ready to write his paper. Using his key, Tyrell was able to find supporting evidence from numerous sources for each of his main reasons. Using multiple sources to defend a single claim can help you better convince your audience that you are a knowledgeable, informed writer. Now that Tyrell has carefully read and marked up his sources and has a much better grasp of the topic and is ready to draft his paper. Fortunately, he'll be able to do so not only quickly, because he's knowledgeable in the subject, but also logically, because he also has a sound organizational structure prepared. One of the advantages of Tyrell's critical reading and annotating of his sources is that he has learned even more terminology related to the field he is studying, which means not only will he be able to expand his search for additional sources, if needed, but also he can use those keywords to vary his own word choice more so that he isn't necessarily repeating the same phrases throughout his composition. Overall, Tyrell feels much more confident about his topic and source selection than he did before, studying the articles he had collected. Annotation has helped him become a well-informed, critical learner, which will translate well into his writing, enabling him to better convince his audience. Try these same kinds of annotation strategies to help bolster your own understanding of your topic and to get a jump start on a more refined, more purposeful essay.